Today's daf is daf Mem Zayin. We're coming to the end of Masechta Shavuos. And we're going through each line of the Mishnah. The next case of the Mishnah was that if both of them, if there were Shnei Chashudim, the one who's claiming, the litigator is a Chashud, can't swear, nor is the other person, the defendant, are able to swear. What happens then? So there are two opinions in the Mishnah. In our Mishnah, it said that Rabbi Yossi was of opinion that the Shvuah goes back to Sinai, and we'll soon see what that means. It goes back to its original place. The language uses Chazra, Shvuah, Mekayma, goes back to its original place. How do we understand that? We'll see more in a minute. That's Rabbi Yossi. Arameus says no, since we can't, neither swear, we only pay half. So first thing I want to know the correct wording in our Mishnah. So the Gemara, this teacher of Nachman, tell me exactly who says what. Because halacha like Rabbi Yossi, so we need to know which opinion is Rabbi Yossi and which opinion is Rameir. We don't know. So he said, what's the halacha? If I don't know who said what, I don't know what the halacha is either. If Robert thought that by him telling what the halacha is, you'll work your way backwards, see who said what. Yet in the future, later on, we learned that Rabbi Yossi said by Menyumi, in the name of Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Yossi says Yachleiku, not the version that we have in our Mishnah, but the other version. Rabbi Yossi is one that says Yachleiku. And the Chentan Rabbi Yossi Yachleiku. You get mother say Tan Rabbi Yossi Yachleiku. That it was Rabbi Nachman, it was only Rabbi Zvidin, Rabbi Yossi was Yachleiku. And Rabbi Nachman Ubda Yachleiku. And Rabbi Nachman Paskin, based on that version, Rabbi Yossi is one that says Yachleiku, you only pay half. That's how we followed. So let's now analyze the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Chazra Shavua L'Mekayma. Okay, neither of them can swear, so what do? The Shavua goes back to its original place. Now, there's two ways of understanding what do you mean original place. One way of understanding original place is it goes back to the one who had to swear. In this case here, the Teveya had to swear, the person had to swear, and because they're going to say the guy who's made the mixes, he had to swear because he's made a partial admission. No, he can't swear, he has to pay. We give him an option of swearing, but he can't. We don't let him swear because he has no credibility. The other way of learning is Chazal L'Mekayim means it goes back to the original source, to the Torah, and you know what? The Eibush will take care of it. We in a Bezdin court of law, we can't do anything about this because you're not swearing. How can we? What do we do? We leave things the way they are, but you know that you owe the money. The Eibush will take care of you. So be careful. So that's the two opinions. Hey, the Chazal go back to He said when it says that neither of them can be trusted. It says neither of them can be trusted. We put it back. Is the Rabbeinu, our rabbis in Babel said Chazra Shvuah Sinai. It goes back to Har Sinai, which means that we in the court of law are not going to force you to swear, and therefore we're not going to make you pay either. But since you know the truth, the Eibishter was going to take you. It's a curse. It goes back to leave it in the Eibishter's hands to make sure that person gets recompensed. To tell it to be exactly that person get interesting expression. That person get recompensed, and you will get your just desert, or you lose the money other places. Yeah. But Bezin can't do anything about it. I was saying, the Shavua goes back to the one who was made in mixes, who should have sworn. He can't swear, no, so he has to pay. So these are the two opinions. In the two opinions in the Mishnah, what happens when both of them are suspect and one guy's a Moed mixes and he should be swearing, and he's trying to exonerate somebody, he can't. So what do? And we can't bring the truth to other person because he also has no credibility. So either Yachleiku, you divide half, or Yachzel L'Mekayim. In Yachzel L'Mekayim itself, we had a machlekes. We had a machlekes. I'm saying the bubble. I'm saying that to throw. Whether Yachzel L'Mekayim means it goes back to Sinai, which means we do nothing. The Eibishter will enforce it, or whether it goes back to the person who has to swear you can't swear, pay. So who says what? Who are these Rabbeinu Shabbat bubble? Who are these Rabbeinu Shabbat? Amar Papa says, I figured it out. Rabbeinu Shabbat bubble. You know what Rabbeinu bubble is? Rabbi Shmuel. I know Rabbeinu Shabbat in this case is Rabbi Abba. What's the story? Rabbeinu Shabbat Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbeinu bubble says are the ones who is Rabbi Shmuel. That they say what? Since both of them can't swear, we do nothing. Is the following. Now we learn the Mishnah. So too Yisayimim LaYifru Ela B'Shua. That the orphans, when they come to collect, they can only collect with a Shua. So what exactly is the pshat? What do they collect with a Shua? This we just had in the Mishnah. But we ask, who are the Yisayimim collecting from? Mima. Lema Meloiva, they have a shtar. These Yisraelim, if they want to collect their money, they have to swear. Now, if they have a document in their hand, if their father would have been alive and he approaches the borrower, here, you have a contract law, you owe me money, then in the times of the mission, there was no Hesru's Hesses. Of course, the guy pays without a shua. So the children of the Yisraelim, which we have Rahmanas on, and we always try to help them out, we're going to make them swear. And they can't. I mean, what is that? The father was alive with Shua. Because he has a star. If the father would have been alive, he has a star in his hand. He walks over to the borrower. You owe me $100. Here's the document. End of story. There's no dispute. You owe the money. If you go to court, it'll be open-ended. Open shut case. The inu b'shavu and the children, we're going to make them swear. Klepnisht. This is what it's talking about. If normally when you collect from Yisraelim, you need to swear that their father did not leave them a mashkin, did not pay them the money. If Yisraelim are collecting from Yisraelim, the chiddush is that the Yisraelim, even though we try to help out, but we have two sets of Yisraelim here. So we are going to tell the first set of Yisraelim, you're going to have to swear that Abba, father never told us about this loan that it was paid. We didn't find a receipt amongst the starters. They have to make a few shurs. But that which they can swear. And we even learned, Bechem Breaker added that even if the kid was born after his father died, what can he swear already? He can still swear, he still must swear, I didn't find a receipt amongst the documents. Yisraelim from Yisraelim shouldn't collect money on the shua. So that was one of the value. Now this is the thing that they come along like this. When is that said? When the father died, the labor was still alive. So if the father would have approached the labor with this document, he would have got paid with no shua. He died, he passes on all his debts to his children. So now the Yisraelim have the right to collect with this document. And then if the labor died, now it's his children. The Chiddush is that even though when your father died, he left your Yerusha this document that you can collect without a shua, because the labor also died now, and he has Yisraelim, these Yisraelim cannot collect from the other Yisraelim, Ela b'shua. Makes sense. You have to swear Shleit B'Kadno, Abba, and all those three shuas. If the labor died first, what would have been if the Malva would have approached the children of the Levi and the orphans and say, your father owes me $100, here's a document? He would have to swear. Well, he would have to swear that the father didn't pay him back. Now, it's a debt that is tagged to a Shavuot. When he dies, that debt does not pass on to his children. How can he pass on the debt of a Shavuot to the children? Why not? Because the Shavuot the father had to make, the children can never make. What was the Shavuot the father had to make? That your father never paid me. How can the children say that? The children can say our father never told us he paid us. Our father didn't have a receipt. That's all they can say. They cannot make the shua. And since the father when he died, he had a debt that needed a shua, a star that required a shua. He can't pass down to his children. That's what Shmuel says. And you cannot pass a shua to the children. So what happens? Since you cannot swear, right? And neither of them can swear. The children of the Malva cannot swear. What do you say? Our father never paid. How can you say that? The children of Levi have to swear. Our father did pay. How do they know that? Oh, so what did I supposed to say? What do you do? Both of them can't swear. One of them is Mechuy B'Shua, the children of the Mal B'Chuy B'Shua. So what do we do? Nothing. So when we had an opinion, Yachzur L'Sinai, which means we do nothing, that's Rabbi Shmuel. That's Rabbi Sein Shabbat. So Rabbi Sein Yisrael. Who are these Rabbi Sein Yisrael that say, oh, if you can't swear, then you have to pay? Is Rabba. That's Rabba, which we had a few times already. We had in Babas and Lamadal, known as the Sugi of Nascha de Rabba. And what's the story of Nascha de Rabba? So we had the Hawud Gab is a person, the Chot of Nascha, he went to somebody else's house and he grabbed a piece of silver, a chunk of silver. Also came Rabbi Ami, they came before Rabbi Ami, and Yossi Rabbi Abba Kamei. Rabbi Abba happened to be sitting in the room when this Shaila came before Rabbi Ami. I see Chatzad, the Balabas, the owner, the original owner of this Nascha, brought a single witness, the Mechtav Chotzemenei. There's a guy, he stole from him. Okay, so Amalei, and the guy's response was, Chotri. Yes, I did. Chotri. It was mine. And now we have a conundrum. How would a good judge rule this din over here? What's Shaila? Name Zil Sholim. Tell this guy, well, we caught you stealing, the Eidech saw you stealing. Pay, give it back. Like a Tresad. There are no two witnesses. He could have denied it altogether. And he has a miga. He could have said, I never stole it. No, so if he has a miga, he could have said, "I never stole it." So then let him walk away. He doesn't really have a miga. He has an aide who says that you did steal it. So it's not a miga. He could have said, "I didn't steal it," because then he would have to make a sure that he didn't steal it because there's an aide there. No, so name let's do the normal case. An aide echad says you did something wrong, swear. But he could only make you swear to contradict the aide. What did the aide say? The aide said you stole the naschah. He said, I agree, I took it. Oh, is this mine? How does the aide is not talking about whose it is? All the aide is mechayiv is I saw you take it, and he's made. What's left to swear? And in Nachmer, the aide, according to the aide's accusation, with the balabas, you're a ganef. How can we even allow you to swear? Even though we have legazim. So what do we do? You're right. So having this aid is chayiv b'shua. The ain yochol is can't swear. The chol hamechuyev shua. The ain yochol shavim mishal. Anyone who's mechuyev shua and cannot swear has to pay. So what do we say? So therefore, that's Rabba's din, which is being like. So what do we see for Rabba? The mishalim. So therefore, in our case, Chazra Shua goes back to the Mekayma. The Meidah mixes, you will Meidah mixes, you can't swear, pay. Over here, in this, the problem, all the Shem talk about is that this case over here, Nascha or our Mishnah, is very different than the case of, let's say, Yusaimim are going to Yusaimim to collect. Over here, it's the Nitzvah. I'm asking for $100. You're the nitzvah, and you're saying 50. So you have to either pay or swear, but you can't swear. So therefore, you have to pay. You're the nitzvah. Over here also, it's the nitzvah. The guy who took the naschov is saying, give it back. So he's the nitzvah. In the case of the Yisayim, let's say, Rabbi Shmuel's case, it's a teveya. The teveya is the one who cannot swear. And yes, but so it's a different story altogether when the Tevei is the one who cannot swear when you do nothing. How do you know in the case with the Nitva who we have established that there's a Chayve and the Nitva cannot swear, the news, you have to pay it. In the case of Tevei, he also establishes a Chayve. We have a star, but he's a Tevei. Maybe if he can't swear, he should still collect. In other words, it's not exactly the same case. Maybe there's a difference between the two. It actually makes sense like Rabbi, but the Tanya Rabami, this very same Rabbi who stuck, didn't know what to do. He must be later on, or after he heard about it, he changed. He's the one who said the following. Said the pasuk, Shavuos Havaya Tia Ben Shnei by a shamer, with the guy, the shamer says, look, it was stolen, whatever it is, there's a shamer chinim and he's potter. So he has to make a shvua that's l'shalach l'yodei. So he says Shavuos Havaya Tia Ben Shnei between those two. What do we mean Shnei? What's the pasuk then between those two? The Shemer and the Balabas. What's the Torah want? Obviously, the Shemer and Balabas. The Loi Ben Yoshim, but not between the Yoshim. Why not? No, but both the Shemer died, the guy died. You don't shvu anymore. Why not? What are you talking about? The guy says, "Look, your father owes me $100. Less like $50. I know we owe you $50. I know we don't owe you. I'm contradicting what you're saying. That's a normal case of meidim mixes. Why shouldn't he have to swear? If the kid, just because the kid, if he says bodily that my father does not owe you the second 50. That might make us swear. Mali who Mali Yavo. What's who's the child of that? So what do you sure somebody will live in a ocean? Must be talking about what the Yerush doesn't know. And what kind of shul we're talking about here? Chamshin Yadaina. Yes, $50, I know. But Chamshin Lo Yadaina. Now, in this case, the child can't swear because he doesn't know. But he might be in major mixes, but he can't swear. And what does it say here? So this is how we say. If you're going to say Aviv Kagavna and the Chiddush and the Pasuk is, then in this case you're puffed. In other words, had the father been alive, the father would have said Chamshin Yadaina and Chamshin Lo Yadaina. So what the din is major mixer, but he can't swear. So if the din is that the father then would have to pay, okay, it comes a pasuk and gives a chiddush, but the child in this case doesn't have to pay. A chiddush makes sense. The father would have been standing there and said, "Chamshin Yadaina, Chamshin Lo Yadaina, you're major mixer, but I can't swear." And the din would be that you chayiv mitoshen yochel shavim mishalom like Rabbi Abba. Okay, the chiddush the pasuk is, but not the children. The children has a right not to know. I mean, how by you it's a lame excuse. You don't know if you owe the money, you don't know the money. So therefore, the children, how are they supposed to know? So therefore, the Torah is mechadish that they're potter. But Iambit of the Kagavan, you can tell me, I'm touching your Shava. Goes back to Sinai, so you don't have to pay. No, so what's the Chiddush of the children? The father also wouldn't have to pay. It's Krogab Yoshalam, wouldn't you possibly by the ocean? So this clear that Rab Ami now changed his mind. He agrees with the principle of Rabbi Abba. No, but Rabbi Shmuel who says that if he cannot swear, so they say that what that you do nothing. But Rabbi Shmuel, what do they do with the pasuk? Hi Shavuos Havai my kadosh. What do bench name? So if you remember, we learned before Rab Tarfon's son. This is the case where we have Rab Tarfon's son a few times. Rab Tarfon's son of Shimon. He said, you know what, Shavuos? We said that when we try to we discourage them from swearing, say, pay, don't swear. Finally, the guy says swearing, so we say, oi, sudana, shayim ha'ela. No, everyone get out, because your shayim come here. We're saying in plural. I mean, side the teveya, side the nitva are considered a shayim. The nitva maybe is a rasha because he might be swearing false. The teveya not swearing, so why we call the teveya a rasha? So Shimon Tarfon said, you know why? You had lend money to a person that didn't have such integrity, so you put yourself in this situation. Why would you lend money to somebody you know is dishonest? If you're dishonest, you should have done a star, you shouldn't have done whatever, you should have had much aid him, should have done something much more concrete. And therefore, you're partially at fault. And that's what the Torah says, Shvuah v'aya tiyeh ben shneim, not the lafuke Yoshin, not to exclude Yoshin. Ma'kadosh b'Tanya, we learn Shimon Tarfon Shvuah Hashem tiyeh ben shneim, Numa Shvuah Chol al shneim, tell you the Shvuah is Chalam Bo. Shimon Tarfon no, as Hodel, okay. So that's one thing we learn from there. Another thing we learn from here, Shimon ben Tarfon says, as hore lo oikev achar noyev. So Rashi learns that, sorry, once we're bringing Shimon ben Tarfon, we're bringing some other Rashi. How do I know that it's also to be an oikev achar noyev? Usually, it means like following the footsteps, right after a noyev. Somebody who was very promiscuous, let's say, and was into debauchery. But Shimon Tarfon says, the way Rashi learns is, how do I know I'm not allowed to bring women to this person who's a knife, even though I'm not the one who's a knife, I'm not the one doing anything wrong, but I'm helping someone else out. As hora le'oikev acha noyev benayin, how do you know that it's forbidden to help out this knife? Tamalei is the passage loy sinaf. We darshan loy san if. We darshan it says don't help out a knife. Then another pasuk, it says in the pasuk, "Vateranu bal," excuse me, "Vateranu bal leichem." Sorry, "Vateranu bal leichem." "Vaterognu bal leichem," and even were complaining there, and they said that you took it, you're going to kill us. Tartem v'genisem. He told them off. He said by the Meraglim there, that he said Tartem. First you went shpionage. First you went and you reconnoitered the land. And then Viganisim, and then you insulted the Abish, the Shechina who's in the land. But all Shal Makam, this is the Abish that was with you, and we call Abish Makam because Abish fills everywhere. And this is how you come back. So that's how we dash it. So he dashed it with Taragnu, 2 words. The first part of the word is Tartem, and the second part of the word is Viganisim, as if you insulted the Abish. Then in another passage, these are different drushes that he said, because we don't really have a Shas Shimon ben Tarfon anyway. So whatever he said, we bring them together, which the Gemara does many times. Says the Gemara, Ad Hanor Agod Nahar Pros, it refers to Yisrael. It says that the boundary of Yisrael is until Nahar Pros, and it calls it Nahar Agodl. The Nahar Pros is the smallest of the 4 Naharis. When we go from Eden. So why is Nahar Pros called the Yam Agodl, Hanar Agodl? Shimon Tarfon says, you know why? Because Kodev Legabe Dehina. If you touch somebody that is full of oil, not with oil, Dehina, you also become part of oil. So since this land is connected to Eretz Yisrael, it comes chashiv, even though it's smaller, but in quality, it is more chashiv than the other 3 rivers because it's connected to Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Shmuel says the famous word, Tana Eved Melech Kemelech. I love this word. And Eved Melech Kemelech. So now, since the Nar is attached to Yisrael, and Yisrael is interesting. So Eved Melech Kemelech is Yisrael is here considered, it's called the Melech, and Eved Melech Kemelech for Nahar Pros is considered the most significant. The next part of the Mishnah is V'hachen v'ni al pin kosei. Right, so the guy told the Chenveni pay my employees, and the Chenveni claimed that he did. The employee says he didn't. So therefore, the Chacham say that he has to Shnei and Ishboyim v'noitlin. There's another case where you make a shvuah and you collect. And Banana says, Kate said boyim l'shvuah shav. How can you have them both swear when it makes a mockery out of the whole din Torah? Because one of them is definitely swearing false. He does. First of all, and first of all, as the Rishonim say, lav dafka, because even the Chembeni says, I remember without it because it just this is how it was. This is people used to write down. You didn't have a little booklet in your store that used to write down people bought things, credit. Tanya. Daniel the Bryce, Omar Rebbe said, he made the following expression. Toirach Shvua Zu Lam. This shvua that we have both of them swearing, inside the storekeeper, inside the employees, why do you have to go through this? Why taka should we have a full shvua coming out between them? Now we're not sure if is he saying that bananas they both collect without a shvua at all, or is he saying the chenveni loses out? That we're not going to allow both of them to swear, but one of them we're going to allow to swear and collect, and we're going to allow the poilim to come and swear and collect. Because the chenveni maybe should have done something, should have had Eidim there, should have done something. What is it beholding? Amalei Rabchia said, Rabchia said to Rebbe, Tanina, we learned, what do you mean? Shneim nishboy v'noitlim. What do you mean, how difficult is the shua? The fact is, the Chachamim say in the Mishnah that you taught us, that they both swear and they take. And it says there, in Mi Bal HaBayis, they take from the Bal HaBayis. Sounds like clearly, the Chanimini collects from Bal HaBayis his payment, and the Poilim collect from the Bal HaBayis their payment. So there's two shuas saying they both collect. So did Rebbe accept what Abchia said to him, and he just made a comment, or no? So the Tanya will in the Brayse Rebbe says Poyalin. Says the Brayse following. Rebbe says Poyalin. The workers they swear lechenveni. Now, if the balabayis has to pay out to both of them, so they don't swear to the chen. Who they? You swear to the person who's about to give you the money. So they should swear to the balabayis. By saying here that he swears to the chenveni, sounds like the chenveni is not going to get paid from the balabayis, and they swear to the chenveni that they got, and that's it, and no other shua. The misal balabayis, if it's true that what they both collect, then they should have sworn to the balabayis. What do they have to do with the chenveni? They're finished. They said the chenveni never gave us to go back to the balabas. You never you never paid us our wages. Give us our wages. The balabayis, Amar Rava says no raifne. Poilim nish boil balabais, but b'mayim chenveni. When it says the chenveni means that in front of the chenveni, and why is that important? Because the balabais doesn't really know who's telling the truth. But if the chenveni is there, then he has more confidence that these workers, at least in their mind, are not lying. Because how would they have the chutzpah to look at the chenveni in the face and say, "You never gave us the whatever it is that the food or the money you're supposed to give us." And now starts a new sugi. We already had a sugi in Cheskes Abatim. Itma, we learned. You have two groups of Eidim. Let's call one group A and group B, and they both contradict each other, right? It's not Eidim Zaymin, so what do? We toss out the case of the thing. The question is, how do we view now these two sets of Eidim? One of them definitely is a liar. So what do we do in the future? Do we ever accept their Eidim again or not? So we have a famous Machlekes is Rabhuna and Rabchizda. And Rabba there. Rabhuna said, each group of Eidim have a Cheskes Kashas. So Memela, so each group on their own, if group A signs documents or comes with other Eidim, we'll accept it. Zu each one can come on their own and testify. But what you can't have is one person from group A and one person from group B ever coming together, because we know one of them for sure is a liar. It's only when you look at each group, separately, we say independently, we say, each one has a cheskes kashas. However, Chizah says, no, not only can't you combine one aid from group A and one aid from group B, both aid, the cheskes kasha has been shattered, and we can never trust them again. Why would you trust these aidim again? Because we've established definitely there's one of them is a cheskes chakras. So the Gemara, okay, so now we're going to go through 4 different cases, and let's see how we go through it. Shnei Malvin, let's say you have 2 lenders, Vishnei Lovin, and 2 borrowers, Vishnei Shtaris. So on one star you have group A, on one star you have group B. Are they kosher? Well, I look at you. Kodav Chizah, no, neither star is good. Kodav Huna, since each cat is coming separately, they're both good. Okay, case number 2. Malva, there's one Malva, there's one Leiva, and there's Shnei Shtaris. There's 2 Shtaris. The problem is because it's one malva and one loiva. Even forget Rab Chizda. I mean, for him, the Eidim never good. Even according to Rab Huna, you're using both sets of Eidim for yourself. One of them for sure is not kosher. We don't know which one it is. So one star definitely is kosher. One star definitely is not kosher. So we turn around to the malva who's the moitzi and say, well, you can only collect the lesser amount, not the higher, not the greater amount, because we know one of them is definitely possible. You're the moitzi. You prove that the Eidim down your star are the ones that are good. So therefore, you can only collect the lesser amount. Okay, case number 3. Shnei malvin, two separate malvin. And two separate malvin, v'loive echad, and only one loive. Ushnei stades, and the two stades. These are two stades. What happens then? So you have two stades, right? And according to Rav Huna, where one star is each star separately is kosher, and you have two malvin. And because you have two malvin, so each one has a separate group of Eidim, and according to Rav Huna, that's kosher. Is hainu maslisin. This is like the Mishnah. What each one is treated separately, just like the Chenveni and the Balabayas. There's two different stories. Even though we know one of them for sure is lying, we know one of them is no good. But each one we treat them as two separate cases. The Palin swear you never paid us, collect. The Chenveni swears you never paid me, collect. Same thing over here. You have two Malvin, two stutters. We know that one of the stutters is, but we look as no good. But we look at each star separately. Okay, what about the last case? Beis loving, you have two borrowers, but a malva echad. You have one lender. The shnei stutters, and you have two stutters, and you have two stutters. So what happened in this case here? What would Abu Huna hold in this case over here? Do we say that since it's coming out of one malva, and one of them for sure is no good, so we'll do the same thing with Yotz Tachtena? Or do we say, because there's two different loivim here, it's like two separate cases, even though it's one malva, one lender, it's two separate cases. It's like the Chenveni and the Peilin, and therefore he can collect each one.
Yes. You have rule Nashim and Ashutfin, and Levi gives them a halvor, so you have base loivim. Mm-hmm. Or is it they come
No, two separate disparate cases. But you used both sets of Eidim. And according to Rav Huna, that says each, do we treat it like two cases or one case? Because according to Rav Huna, together you can't use them, but separately you can. The shaila here is because it's on the one hand it's one malva and he's the one who's the matzi, so it's like one case, or because it's to do with each leiva separately, it's like two cases. Teiku. Most of when we ask a question, when you bring two eidim for kiddush besides testifying, yeah, we saw the new moon. They also have to. They ask him all kinds of questions to make sure that it wasn't a figment of the imagination, or they saw some planets. Maybe they actually saw the moon. So would ask him, Gavoya, how high was it? They knew it. They knew how to calculate where exactly the moon would be in relation to the horizon. So would ask him, Gavoya base mardois or one mardo? How many mardois? Mardois was the stick they used to use to poke the animals to move on. So it was a long stick with a very pointy edge, and it looks like in those days every stick was exactly the same size. So if you talk to people, and everybody was farmers, you talk to people, you would say, Mardoya, like a yard, they would already know exactly what you're talking about. Everyone measured that way. Interesting, in Australia now we use meters and everything else. But when it comes to miles, you still hear people talking always in miles.
They always say he's 6 foot tall.
Or 6 foot tall, yeah. Exactly. So, because everyone knows what that is. So Mardoya was a measure that everybody knew. So they would ask, so what happened was two Eidim came. One said, Gavoya Beis Mardois. From the horizon, there was two Mardois up. That's when Mishalosh, 3. Okay, we say, just like we had in Morah Pesachim, we had also Sanhedrin, that people can make a mistake, like 1 hour. Small mistakes we tolerate. Eidusa Kayemis. We just had a machlekes abai barava whether one person made a big mistake, no one knows what he's talking about, or they both make a little bit of an error, so it's somewhere in the middle. Hey, if one guy says there were 3, these are Mardeis, the other one said no, it's 5. That's too. The discrepancy is too great. Eidusa Betela. But then it says sounds like one of them definitely is lying. Okay, there were 2 Eidim missing, one aid against the other. One of them is definitely lying, and yet it says you can use them again. You can use them again. My love, what do we mean you use them again? Mammon. Now why that you can use them at any one of them, and we know one of them for sure is a liar, you can use them with another aid. They can join another aid and become Eid's Mammon. A raya to Rav Huna. A kasha Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda says once you credibility is shot, you can have, even if you're on your own, you can't. Oh, my Rabba. So Rabba comes along and says, and for Rav Chizda, he says, no. You know what it means that they can combine? That one of these Eidim can combine with another Eid this month. If another Eid comes along and says, yes, it was 3 Mardeyas, or another Eid comes along and says it was 5 Mardeyas, we don't automatically discount both of them. One of the Eidim there will join that other Eid, and nothing to do with in the future Eidus Mum or anything else. Why? Now it's two saying it was 5 Mardeyas, and one saying what? 2 Mardeyas. And then Shnayim is good. Okay, we'll stop paying attention tomorrow in